Hey listeners, Dan Harris here, host of the 10% Happier podcast. Imagine all your audio entertainment available in just one place. That's what the Audible app is all about. With Audible, you can always find the best of what you love or discover something new. Audible has an incredible selection of wellness titles and originals like The Light Podcast by Michelle Obama, Work It Out by Mel Robbins, and Confidence Gap by Russ Harris. Membership includes access to Audible Originals, podcasts, and tons of audiobooks that you can download or stream as much as you want. And as an Audible member, you can choose one title per month from an ever-growing catalog of titles to keep. The Audible app makes it easy to listen anytime, anywhere, whether you're traveling, working out, doing chores, wherever your day takes you. New members can try Audible now free for 30 days. Visit audible.com/Harris or text Harris to 500-500.
The weather is cooling down a bit. The leaves are starting to fall. Yes, it's that time of year again, football season. And we all know the best part of any game day traditions are the ones that involve food. There's nothing like having everyone in your game day crew coming together to bring their best bites and argue over whose family makes the best chili. And while there's no need to mess with the perfection of game day classics, like a freshly grilled Oscar Mayer hot dog topped with Heinz ketchup and mustard, it's always fun to step out of your comfort zone and get creative with your recipes. Because there's nothing more fun than adding to your list of game day traditions, like making a creamy and delectable queso dip with Velveeta cheese that can be eaten with so much more than just chips. Now is the chance for people across the nation to find out whose game day eats reign supreme. It's your turn to show off your tasty game day food traditions. Go to www.gamedayfoodtraditions.com to share a photo of your game day food tradition to enter to win $10,000. Once again, that's www.gamedayfoodtraditions.com to enter to win $10,000.
This is Full Change with Tom Laidlaw.
Hey, Tom, we have a tough SOB on this show today. He's a big defenseman.
Okay.
And he inspired Goodnight Jim Kyte. We got Jim Kyte today.
Jimmy Kyte. We've met each other before on the ice, but we've never actually talked to each other, so it's great to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Tommy.
So where did you grow up then? Where is home?
Ottawa, Ontario.
Okay, that's where you grew up there?
Yeah, grew up, born and raised, and then returned afterwards as well.
So those that don't know, they're listening to us. Jim, do we say that you're legally deaf? Is that correct to say it that way?
Yeah, so I'm the only legally deaf player in the league. So that means that has ever played in the league. So that means that you need to have a hearing loss in both ears, and that it has to be your best ear cannot be better than a 55 decibel loss. So I'm considered to have a profound hearing loss. I'm considered profoundly deaf.
Right.
I wear 2 hearing aids, and they're pretty small, but they're a little bit bigger, and their technology getting smaller and smaller, but the most powerful hearing aids you can buy. And the next step for me is a cochlear implant, where I get a magnet put into the back of my head and so forth. But I'm not there just yet. Wow. But I have I read lips, and sometimes I heard the whistle on the ice, and sometimes I didn't. So you pick and choose what you wanted to hear.
There you go. I've done that myself too. So yeah, there's a lot of guys that do that.
Yeah.
So were you born that way?
Yes, I was. So I come from a family of 5 boys and 1 girl. My dad and all the boys are hearing impaired or legally deaf. Oh. Like growing up, I always said that I was, particularly in hockey, I said I was just hearing impaired because I didn't want to give anybody an excuse not to play me, to think that I couldn't hear very well. That I could still hear some, but the truth was that I couldn't hear a lot. So, but I got by reading lips and doing a lot of different things that some other players, I understand, with good hearing didn't have to do. Like you could hear going back for the puck. I understand good players with good hearing can hear the skates in the ice behind you. I didn't have that luxury.
Wow.
So when you play in junior hockey and certainly in the National Hockey League, they want to clean the glass on the inside and the outside of the plexiglass, right? So that the fans have an unobstructed view of the play and the action that's going on. But I was going back for the puck. I would look into the glass and see a mirror-like reflection to see where the forechecker was off my right shoulder or my left shoulder. And there's a lot of different things that I did. Another thing is, particularly, I remember vividly playing in Edmonton with the Winnipeg Jets. I'm on the offensive blue line. And back in our day, the home team wore the white jersey. And I remember I subconsciously counted all the time, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, making sure that there were 5 white jerseys plus the goaltender, obviously, in front of me. Right. And then 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, where's that 5th player? And sure enough, Glenn Anderson was trying to sneak behind me to get a breakaway pass. Wow. My bench is yelling at me like crazy. I couldn't hear them, but I just knew that things didn't add up in front of me. And so I just knew that something was going on, and I looked behind and there he was. And so I counted constantly, subconsciously, making sure the 5 players were in front of me. I used the glass. I taught the goaltenders to put their arms up in the air if it was going to be icing, and if they're looking up the ice, they're most of the color commentators these days are goaltenders, so they've watched a lot of hockey. Yeah. They're looking up the ice, they can see what's happening, and they can point to one way or the other as to which way I might want to turn with the puck.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah. And then I had to teach the coaches as well. A lot of coaches, they would go onto the whiteboard and they'd start scribbling on the whiteboard and talking at the same time. Right. To me, I heard them, but it was like Charlie Brown's teacher. Wow, 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 wow. I couldn't understand what they're saying. So I would actually teach them right on the board, then turn and face the team, and then explain what you just wrote on the wrote on. Yeah, I had to do that with teachers in school. I had to do that. So there's a lot of self-advocacy that you needed to do. And I learned that from my mom. Because growing up, the school board wanted to send all 5 boys to at that time, was called the Belleville School for the Deaf and Dumb in Belleville, Ontario. And now it's called the Whitney School for the Deaf in Belleville. But my mom fought the school board, and she said, I want my boys to be integrated into the school system. And that's one of the reasons why I'm oral today, is that if I went to Belleville, I'd be a signer. I know how to sign a little bit, and it's an absolutely beautiful language. It really is a beautiful language. It's just that I'm a product of my environment. And my mom's 86 years old today, and still on Sunday night dinners, when we see her, she would constantly correct everybody on the table in the way to speak properly, enunciate clearly. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm considered to be oral deaf.
Right. That's amazing, right? So that she's that strong. Like, instead of feeling sorry for people, like, she's going to say, no, you're not going to be feeling sorry for yourself. You're going to go out there and act like everybody else, right?
Oh, absolutely. So my dad was a great athlete, and he was the athlete of the half century at St. Francis Xavier University in Nova Scotia, where he grew up.
Wow.
And so he was my role model growing up, and he went on to become a dentist. But he said to us, you may have a handicap, a challenge, but you're not disabled.
Right.
In a sense that it's don't be identified by your disability. Wow. And if you work hard, I have a presentation that I do some corporate speaking, and I call it the 5 Ps. It really comes down to perspiration, positive attitude, preparation, perseverance, and passion. Wow. And if you come up with those things, then you should be successful in whatever you try to pursue. That's
very cool. I'm thinking about, like, as you're talking, I'm thinking about being on the ice in the NHL and how much talking is going on, especially between defense partners, right? So you're not you're not really able to do that. I mean, it's motions, right?
Oh yeah, like your viewers, if you go to an NHL hockey game and you're close to the ice, you can hear all the talking on the ice. The higher level of team sport that you play, the more important communication comes. And so I compensated I did all the talking. So I was a defensive defenseman, and I knew the systems inside and out. I knew them almost better than the coaches. And you keep it simple as a defenseman. You go back for the puck. Option 1, you look for the winger. Option 2, you look for the second option. Not the option 3, you eat the puck or it's off the glass and out. Right. So, but I did all the talking. I was very, very positional, and I made sure. Yeah. Now, one of the defense partners I have is Mario Marois. Mario Marois in Winnipeg. I mean, he would scream at me at the time, and I would be able to hear him, and everybody else in the rink heard it too. But for the most part, very positional, and I did all the talking.
Right. So, as a kid growing up, then, how much did you have to face when you went to try out for teams?
Well, that's the thing. My dad getting involved in minor hockey. There were some coaches that just didn't want to deal with me. I had one. I ended up getting cut in my first year Bantam, and even though I was the captain the year before, in the team. This new coach came along, and he ended up cutting me. And eventually I ended up getting back on the team, but I don't think he really wanted to deal with somebody like myself. And and maybe he was just trying to knock me down a notch or two, and he ended up calling me back. But my dad became the managers of teams, and based on, I got a story to tell you about my draft year in junior, and so I got drafted by the Cornwall Royals. Now, the Cornwall Royals had just won 2 Memorial Cups out of the Quebec League with Dale Howardchuk, and this is their first year in the Ontario League. And I was the Cornwall Royal first-round pick. And I was in Toronto. I went down to the table. And because the Cornwall Royals had won 2 Memorial Cups, the chief scout of the team was a guy named Gordy Woods. And he was like the sage of junior hockey because the architect of 2 Memorial Cup winning teams. And but Gordy never sat with any of the other scouts. You could go to a hockey game and see the scouts kind of sitting together and communicating. Gordy always sat out on his own, didn't share any of his notes with anybody else. So I go down to the table, I meet everybody, and the coach was a guy named Bob Kilger. Bob is a former NHL referee. His son Chad played in the league, and Bob has a very dry sense of humor. And I love Bob, but he said to Gordy, Gordy, this is 1981. He said, I know this is the International Year of the Handicap, but aren't we taking this a little too far? And Gordy looked at him and said, what are you talking about? And he said, look at his ears. And Gordy saw my hearing aids for the very first time. And I thought he turned white. His mouth dropped open. He had no clue that I wore hearing aids. And I think that's a really cool story because he just judged me for what he saw on the ice. He didn't have any preconceived notions of what I could or couldn't do based on a disability. He just judged me as like he did every other player. And I think because he didn't have what I call a false filter, I ended up being selected by Cornwall. And I think all the other scouts knew. And I was rated in the first round anyways, and Ottawa had the next pick. And I thought maybe I'd get picked by the Ottawa 67s, Brian Kilray. But, Cornwall ended up picking me, and it actually worked out really, really well for me. I ended up being the first round pick to the Jets the following year. Followed Dale Howardchuk.
Wow, very good. So how many years did you play of junior?
I played a year and a half, more or less.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah.
So I started I was in Winnipeg the first year. I was up and down at the beginning of the year, and then went back to junior. I mean, my first year junior, and then my second year junior, I was up and down. And then as a 19-year-old, I was full-time with the Jets.
Right. So when you started off, were you a defenseman when you started?
Yes, I was.
Okay, good. Now, your fighting career was pretty extensive. When did you start fighting? How old were you?
I started fighting my older brother. I'm the second. I have an older brother, an older sister, and then there's 4 boys. And so I have an older brother who's 3 years older than I am. And so it always happened where we'd all be watching TV. My brother would come in and start changing the channel and wanting to watch what he wanted. We'll say, hey, what's going on? Go get him, Jimmy. And they pushed me out. Well, kind of. So my brother and I learned how to defend myself against my older brother. We get along famously today. Everything's great. But back when, my parents were not upset to see me moved out of the house when I was 15 years of age. I played with the Hawkesbury Hawks, which was about an hour outside of Ottawa. And they weren't upset to see me move at that point. Get out. So, but in junior hockey, like I'm a tall guy. I'm 6'5", and I think there's an expectation that if you're a tall player, a big guy, that you defend your teammates. There's not that many players that I saw. Maybe Willie Huber, one of your former teammates. Yep. He was a big offensive defenseman, but he was a bit of a gentle giant too. Yep. Yes, he was. So I didn't have the offensive skills like a Willie Huber. I certainly was a tough, hard-nosed defenseman. You stood in front of my net. It was a high-rent zone. You had to pay the price. And if you didn't like it, well, too bad, right? And so, you learn to defend yourself and also starting to defend your teammates. In Winnipeg, I was a bit of a lone ranger in the sense that we didn't have an enforcer up front to protect it. Now, we had Paul McLean play with Winnipeg, who played with Dale, and Paul was a great player, a goal scorer and so forth, but he looked like he's a pretty burly guy with a big mustache. He looked like he was a pretty mean customer, so not many guys like to fool around with Mac on the ice. So, but I started fighting in junior, and I didn't fight at all until one game. I was playing the Belleville Bulls, and somebody came after me, and I basically got in 3 fights in one game, and I've been very successful, and that kind of springboarded me into getting a reputation in the league.
Sure. Now, did your brothers play hockey as well?
All my brothers played hockey, but none of them at the level that I did. My brother Murray played junior, but my older brother John was a rower. He was a nationally ranked rower. My sister was a nationally ranked heptathlete, which is 7 events in track and field. Wow. I played hockey. My brother Murray played hockey. My brother Rob was a scrum half in rugby for Ontario, and my brother Frame was a national lacrosse champion. So we all had our own different sports, a very athletic family.
Wow. Yeah. And you got your stubbornness from your mother, it sounds like.
Well, from my mom, she advocated for us to be involved in the community and in school. But my dad was the athlete in the family. And so he never, he just said, I'll drive you to Kingdom Come. Yeah. But if I'm going to drive you everywhere, you better show up and be ready, be prepared to work hard. I don't have a problem with that, but no nights off. No nights off. You had to show up and be prepared.
That's the great parenting right there, right? He says, listen, it's your thing. If you want to do it, I'll get you there, but you have to go out and do the job, right? Absolutely.
Yeah, and even with my own boys, like I'll support them in any way they're 28, 29 right now, but same sort of thing. A lot of parents want to be best friends with their kids, right? But it's our job as parents to prepare them for the world, and sometimes you have to have certain standards and have certain demands, and it can't be a free for all.
And you can't. There's a lot of parents want to fight the fight for the kids, right? And instead of letting their kids fight their own fight.
Yeah, there's a. You've heard of helicopter parents. Yeah. There's a term I heard a couple of years ago called a snowplow parent. A snowplow parent.
I don't know if I've heard that.
Yeah, it removes all the obstacles for their children.
Oh, okay, yep.
Right. Yeah. So a snowplow parent removes everything, finds them their jobs, and makes sure that everything is done for them, but I think they're just setting them up for failure when they get older, and the parents aren't there, and they don't have any resilience.
Right. So, one of the all-time tough guys in the National Hockey League is a guy by the name of Dave Brown. You and Dave Brown, you guys knew each other very well on the ice.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, Brownie and I tussled 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 times.
4 or 5 times, yeah.
Yeah, 4 or 5. No, 5 times. 5 times, and. Brownie, he and I ended up becoming teammates in San Jose.
Oh, is that right? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
how'd that go? You guys are buddies?
Yeah. Oh, great guy. Yeah. Great guy. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, on the ice, I would think, there's a lot of enforcers out there, and I thought Dave Brown was one of the best enforcers of all time.
Yeah.
He was very intimidating, and he knew his job. And my impression was he just loved to fight.
Yeah.
And he was just itching for an excuse to do it. And he was very effective at his job. He protected his teammates, and he certainly intimidated other teams. And I'll tell you a story.
Yep.
So my very first game against Brownie, it's a bit of a long story. Do we have time?
We have lots of time.
Okay. So we go into Philly. And, you read the game reports, the press releases beforehand, and they say, oh, my God, okay, who's this guy? New guy, played in the American League last year, over 400 minutes in penalties, guy named Dave Brown, 6'5". So I said, and he had, I don't know how many penalty minutes in the few games that he played. So obviously he was going to be someone I would have to contend with.
Sure. And
so I go to Rick Bowness. Rick Bowness is the assistant coach from Winnipeg. And I said, Bones, what's the story on this Dave Brown guy? And he goes, oh, Brownie, he fought a guy named Steve Fletcher last year in Sherbrooke. He's all right. He's just a right-handed fighter. He likes to stand up and fight right. I said, okay, great. Thanks for the scouting report. The game started, the warm-up starts, and Brownie doesn't even take a shot on the net. He just skates around in the middle and stares down everybody, right? And I ended up locking eyes with him. And it was, sure enough, it was just a matter of time that we were going to drop the gloves.
Yeah.
And because I was my third year in the league at that point, second or third year in the league, and I had a bit of a reputation already. And so Barney was certainly going to want to establish himself against me. So sure enough, we're playing, and then I look up, and there's Brownie waiting at the top of the circles for me. The play's going the other way, and I just remember the voice of my father in my head saying, "Whatever you do, get the first one in." Yeah. Right. Yeah. So I'm doing really well. Next thing you know, it's raining left-handed punches. So what the heck is going on? And so I do a quick adjustment and so forth. We fall to the ice. But my first couple of punches did some damage to him, and I understand at least that something in his mouth, and so he ended up going to the dressing room. But I knew, okay, the game is early; he'll be back, particularly in Philly. So in the third period, we tussle again. Doesn't want to stand toe to toe like we did, probably because his mouth is tender, but just the way it happened. We both fall to the ice, and I had John D'Amico on top of me. Okay. And I said, "Hey, Johnny, how's it going?" But I'm watching Brownie. Brownie has the eyes rolling in the back of his head. He's going crazy, and from my perception, I see his eyes look at my hand on the ice, and he stomps with his foot towards my hand.
Wow.
Right. And the ice chips fly. And I thought, oh my God, like this guy's not just trying to beat me up.
Wow.
He's trying to maim me. Yeah. Right? He's really trying to hurt me. And that I'd never experienced that before.
Sure.
I made the mistake of looking at the schedule after the game. And I saw, we're playing Philadelphia in 6 weeks' time back in Winnipeg.
Right.
For 6 weeks, I had nightmares about Dave Brown.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I woke up in the middle of the night, my fists clenched, my teeth clenched, sweating, and fighting Dave Brown in my sleep. Yeah. And I've never, ever, before or since, had a player like that get into my mind. And so I remember simply Winnipeg stayed in Windsor when we played Detroit. Oh. I'm playing Joey Kocur and Bob Probert that night.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. But I had a nightmare about Dave Brown. I said, this doesn't make any sense. I should be thinking about Joey and Proby. Oh. Anyways, the game comes around, and time just goes slower and slower and slower. I've never ever thrown up before a game. Oh. But that game I threw up before the game.
Wow.
I needed to face my demon. I needed to get him out of my head. Just had to go up to him. So sure enough, he's on the ice. I make the change. I call the defenseman off. Brownie's standing in front of me. I give him a shot. Doesn't do anything. Doesn't turn around. Puck comes from the point. Give him another shot. Goalie covers up. He skates away.
Really?
So, yeah.
Wow.
So we go to the face-off circle, and I'm ready to jump out of my skin. Right? Yeah. And I just look at him, and because of my hearing impairment, I didn't do a lot of talking on the ice. Right. I didn't do a lot of talking. It was just more by body language and so forth. But I'm looking at him, and I say to him, "Are we going tonight?" And he turns to me quite calmly, and he said, "Not tonight. My mom's in the stands." I said, "What?" My mom's in. So Barney's from Saskatoon.
Yeah.
And his parents had driven in 8 or 9 hours from Saskatoon into Winnipeg. And it was his mom's watching her first live NHL game with him in the league. And he didn't want to fight in front of his mom.
I have never heard that before. I've never heard a player say that.
I haven't told that story often. And I asked Brownie about it. And he said he doesn't remember anything about it. When we played in San Jose. But for me, that was a real experience for me because I just had this whole piano lift off my back.
Sure.
I faced my demon and he turned me down type.
Wow. There you go. Yes. Yeah.
But we ended up fighting a few more times in our career. Right. And, he was he's 6'5", I'm 6'5". He was a lefty, I was a righty. And, Yeah, we had some good battles.
They were good battles. Yeah, I remember watching those too. A couple of Dave Brown stories where we were in a preseason game when I was with the Rangers, and we were in Philadelphia. And somehow I decided I was going to fight him. I don't know what I was thinking about. It was a preseason game. So I could tell he was taking it easy on me. And then I lost my mind. I tried to sucker him right at the end of the fight. And we get over to the penalty box after in Philadelphia. And he says, Tommy, what are you doing? I took it easy on you. And I said, Dave, I don't know what the hell I'm thinking about. And but every time we would play Philadelphia with the Rangers, he hated the Rangers. So he'd line up, he'd run and just hurt everybody. He cross-checked Thomas Sandstrom in the head and got a 10-game suspension, all that. So that's what I knew of Dave Brown. Then when I got traded out to Los Angeles, one of our first trips was back to Philadelphia on the East Coast. He lines up beside me on a face-off, and I'm thinking, okay, here we go. Something's going to happen. And he leans over to me and he goes, hey, Tommy, how are you doing? How do you like L.A.? Like he was the nicest guy on the planet. And like you said, I've seen him since then when I was in the agent business, and he was a scout, just a fantastic guy, but he was that animal on the ice, right?
Oh yeah. On the ice. I find most on the ice, it's business.
Yeah, totally.
It's all business. And then off the ice, I'll have a beer. Like I've had beers with Marty McSorley after a game, after scrapping him during the game.
Yeah.
Right. Like there's that respect.
Yeah, totally.
So on the ice, you need to take care of business and you be very professional. And then off the ice, it's the same sort of story. But most of the guys that I find, there might have been a few arseholes off the ice, but for the most part, everybody's a good guy.
Yeah, I'm with you. I fought Marty when he first started in Pittsburgh and I was with the Rangers, and then we played together in Los Angeles. And yeah, I have a total respect for him. He just when he first started, he could not play the game at all. So he had to fight all the time. And he turned himself into a really good player and still continued to fight and stick up for his teammates. So total respect for him. So one of our co-teammates, one guy that we played with together, you played with him in Winnipeg and I had him with LA, Timmy Waters. Great guy, right? Yeah,
great guy. I'm sure Gresk was very happy to have him on his team rather than against him, because he was like tacky glue all over Gresk when he was playing. He was a very irritable guy to play against, but great guy.
Yeah,
great
definitely.
guy. Tom recently, they unveiled a statue of Dale Howardchuk in Winnipeg.
Oh, that's right.
Outside the MTS Center, and Muddy came in with his wife, and it was great to catch up with him. I haven't seen him in a little while, and actually, the last time I saw him was in the outdoor game Winnipeg played Edmonton.
That's right.
In the Heritage Classic back in 2016, and he's doing great, and he's a great guy.
Yes, he is. So two-part question here. What's the best fight you've ever had from your side, and what's the worst fight you've ever had?
Oh, well, the best fight, I've knocked a few guys out, but there's the best fight, I think, it kind of put me on the map was I had a tilt with Gordy Kluzak.
Oh.
And, he's a big 6'5" guy playing for Boston. Yeah. We were both drafted. He was the first pick overall, and I was 12th overall in our year. And Boston would put him in front of the net on their power play, on the power play, right? And so he was clearing out our defenseman in front of the net. And I yelled something from the bench, and Barry Long said, okay, Kyte, let's see what you can do about it.
Oh.
And so I knocked him down a couple of times, and they're on the power play. Like you say, you got to pay the price and stand in front of the net. Maybe not so much today. Yeah. Not so much today, but in our era, you really needed to pay the price.
Yes.
And he didn't like it. And next thing you know, the tango was on, and we had a great tilt going back and forth. It was on Hockey Night in Canada. Don Whitman made the call. And so it was a big scrap, and I ended up, I'd say I ended up winning on points for sure.
There you go. I saw the fight. Yes, you did.
Yeah. And then the worst fight, I think, I got knocked out by Joey Kocur.
Oh.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, so
he was playing. He was a scary man, though, right? I mean, he had that right hand. Oh,
yeah. Joey. It was the first time I fought him. I definitely was a victor in our first fight. Second fight was a wrestling match. We should have got roughing penalties, not majors. Right. But the third fight, I cross-checked Stevie Y right in front of the Detroit bench.
Oh.
Yeah. Stevie's grew up in Ottawa, and we played summer hockey, so I knew him. It was just the way he turned, and I got him in the ribs, and then sure enough, I just, Joey came out after me, and just the way it all got set up. And I saw this big haymaker coming over the top, and put my head down to try to take. I couldn't get out of the way of it, so I put my head down. That's the last thing I remember. He put a 3-inch crack in my helmet with his bare hand.
Is that right? Wow.
Yeah. If he would have hit me in the face, he would have broke my jaw and my cheekbone and everything else. So that's the first time I'd been knocked down, let alone knocked out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that would be then the worst part of the fight was I got knocked out. The actual trainer from Detroit jumped over the bench to get me. That's how bad, before the Winnipeg trainer was there.
Sure.
And anyways, I came to, I got up, and they weren't hanging on to me at all.
Oh.
And I looked up at the clock. Remember, it was 5:01 in the third period, and I was skating, and I hit a rut in the ice.
Oh.
And I went, ooh, right back down again. So it made it look really, really bad. Yeah. But, Joey, another guy, great guy off the ice. But, business is business, and he nailed me. Yeah. But I kind of joked that I won the fight because I played the very next night in St. Louis.
Right.
The very next night in St. Louis, we played. Yeah. And Joey was out for 2 weeks with a bad hand. So.
See, that's the positive. That's how to look at the positive side of it, right?
Yeah, but if you look, today, if I would have got knocked, I wouldn't see the ice for 6 weeks.
Yeah,
I wouldn't see the ice for 6 weeks. And I had a headache. I had a headache for about a month after that fight. I didn't fight anybody else during that time. And I was on the bench, and the coach comes to you and says, "Kyte, can you play?"
Yeah.
And you say, "Yeah, coach, I can play."
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just in our DNA. So someone who's been knocked out like that, or certainly with a brain injury, shouldn't be making the decisions whether they should go out and ice or not. So.
And nobody made us play. I was the same way. I got knocked out by Bob Nystrom in the playoffs. Spent the night in the hospital. Came out and played the next day, and nobody made me play. That was just the culture back then. There was no broken bones. Yeah, we had a headache. We just went and played. Yeah, totally. So, Jim, we've talked a lot about your fighting, but you had how many years did you end up playing in the National Hockey League?
I was parts of 13 seasons. I'd say 12 seasons altogether. But I was with Ottawa for a cup of coffee.
Sorry.
I broke my ankle last year in Calgary, and I signed with Ottawa as a free agent their very first year. And my ankle wasn't ready. I still have 2 pins in my ankle today, but wasn't ready at the beginning of the year. And I spent most of the year at New Haven. I think that's where you spent a little time, did you?
That's where I started my career. That's right.
Yeah, that's right. So I played with the New Haven Senators for most of the year, but I got called up and I ended up playing 4 games with the Sens. But I'm born and raised in Ottawa, so it was a bit bittersweet. Sure. Yeah. But I was here for a cup of coffee, and but I'm still considered a Sens alumni.
There you go. And like I said, you're known for your fighting, and we've talked a lot about your fighting, but you were a really good hockey player too, like especially that defensive defenseman, right?
Well, that's what I like. Fighting is something that I did, but you don't get to play. Like in Winnipeg, we had the number one defense penalty killing unit in the league. It was Dougie Smale, Ronnie Wilson up front, Mario Marwa, and myself on the back end. We had the number one penalty killing unit in the league for a couple of years. And I was the defensive defenseman. I played anywhere from, I was never a top 1 and 2 guys. Those are the offensive guys, but I certainly a top 3, anywhere to a top 8, and whatever teams I played for. And you want to make sure that that the team is doing the best they can. And whether I was in the lineup or whether I was out of the lineup, I wanted to make sure I was ready to play and contribute in any way I could.
Sure. So your career ended in Ottawa. That was your last season?
No. I left Ottawa and I signed in Las Vegas. I played with the Las Vegas Thunder in the International League. They had a brand new team there. There's a 17-year-old kid named Radek Bonk was.
That's right. That's right. Was Bob Strum the GM there? Bob Strum?
Bobby Strum was the GM. So he remembers me from being out west. And Clint Malarchuk was our goalie, and Pokey Reddick were the 2 goalies. We had the best record in pro hockey. And we had a great team. Yeah. And then the next year was the lockout in the NHL. When the lockout ended, San Jose came calling. And I signed with the Sharks, and I played with the Sharks for the lockout season and the following season. And then after that, I went to Kansas City, and that's where my career was ended. My career was ended by a car accident. I was a victim of a car accident. Car ran a stop sign, T-boned me. My car flipped 3 times, and I woke up with the fire department cutting me out of the car.
Really? Did you get injured?
Yeah. So I ended up with severe post-concussion syndrome. I didn't break anything in the accident. I didn't break anything. I got right on the driver's door. And usually you break things in a car accident, I'm told, when you see it happening and people tense up. And I didn't see it happen. She just came right out of the blue. But the passenger seat headrest was twisted almost 200 degrees. And I think my head hit the headrest. I'm a big guy, so the seat was back.
Sure.
And so I had severe post-concussion for about, I had 3 young children at the time, and I was like the 4th kid on the couch for 2 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And how are you now?
I'm doing good. I've had a few health challenges, but I started getting back into doing a lot. I went and did a lot of writing as part of my rehab. I was thinking about doing some radio stuff and so forth, but just being able to hear was number one, and also I was screwing up my words. I'd say things backwards and so forth. I'd slur my words. So that was part of the car accident. So I ended up writing an article, a column for the Ottawa Citizen for 4 years.
Oh,
yeah, it was called The Point Man. And I wrote about stuff during the hockey season until the Stanley Cup was awarded, from the NHL to outdoor shinny hockey. Wow, yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, but it was a learning experience. I remember the first time I was writing, they said you got between 800 and 900 words maximum. And I said, okay. So the first time I'm writing away, and I hadn't made my point yet. And I look at the word count, and I'm at 1,600 words.
Oh, is that
right? Oh boy! So you learn quickly about whittling things down to what it says. So I had a newfound respect for columnists, not so much the beat writers, they just report it, but the columnists who come up with 3 or 4 things a week. Right. An opinion that I only had to do it once a week, and that was a real challenge. But the columnists out there, those sport columnists, I have newfound respect for them for sure.
Very good. So, and you've got 3 sons?
Yeah, I have 2 boys that are twins. I got married May 10th, 1993. Yeah. My twin boys were born May 10th, 1994.
There you go.
My son Owen was born May 10th, 1995. So I never forget my anniversary. So I'm coming up on 30 years marriage this year. So my boys will be 29, my twins, and my youngest one will be 28.
So what do you do on May 10th then? Is it one big party or what?
Yeah, one big party. And sometimes May 10th is Mother's Day too. So it's kind of screw things up.
That's right.
So it's really a birthday. And then on Father's Day, we celebrate Parents' Day.
Wow. Okay.
So yeah.
I don't know if I've ever heard that before, where everybody's on May 10th, right? The wedding and the
no, and then Bobby Orr scoring his big goal, flying through the air, is May 10th, 1970.
Is that right? I didn't know that. That's cool. Good. So is that are you doing writing now as your career, or what are you doing?
No, so I wrote for a little while, and then I do corporate speaking, and the dean of the School of Business at Algonquin College here in Ottawa heard me speak. And he approached me afterwards and said, I have an idea for a new program in sport, the business of sport. Right. And he asked me if I would be on the advisory committee for it. So fast forward things, I ended up spearheading the creation of a graduate program in sport business management at Algonquin College back in 2001. And I'd never taught before. I had never developed a program before, but I just dove right in and learned as much as I could. And hired some really good people to support me. And we launched the program. It's been very successful. So I taught in the program from 2001 to 2007. And then I went into management. And since 2014, I've been the dean of the School of Hospitality and Tourism at Algonquin College in Ottawa.
Oh, so do I have to call you Dean then? Is that your?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's what people do. I think it's just call me Jim, and don't call me Mister. That's my father. Okay. And I just go by Jim, and everything's good.
Wow.
It's all about.
Yeah. Jim, I got to tell you, your life has been fascinating, really. Right. I mean, it's almost, you're hearing impaired, but it's almost like in some ways driven you farther to do more things. Right. And your mother seems like she was a big part of that as well.
Oh yeah, my mother was incredible. The way dinner at our house went from 4:00 in the afternoon to 8:00 at night, because kids were coming in and out, they were going to play hockey or they're going to play whatever sport they were doing. My dad would pick people up and then drop them off and pick somebody else up and go out. So she was the real anchor at home. And when the kids got a little bit older, she went back into the workforce. And so she very grounding, foundational. And I'm very lucky that I had two parents that I grew up in a household that was very loving and demanding, but loving. And I know there's a lot of kids out there that they one single parent or they don't have any orphans and so forth. So when I look back on it, I've been very, very fortunate.
Yeah. Now, is your father still alive?
My dad passed away, but my mom's still alive.
Okay.
Yeah.
She's 86 now. Is that what you said?
She's 86. My dad passed away about 25 years ago.
Oh, okay. Sorry to hear that. Good. Yeah. So she's still going strong at 86, still the same woman?
Oh, she's still going strong. We just moved her into a retirement home. She didn't want to go, but she's starting to lose her vision a little bit. So we thought that, but it was really, with COVID, it's been really tough because, from a social perspective, everybody was, she was by herself. You couldn't visit her a lot. And so I think just the whole idea, like retirement homes these days they're like cruise ships that don't go anywhere.
Oh, okay.
Right. Yeah. There's so many activities that are going on. She's not in a nursing home. She's in an active living retirement home. So she's very, they have happy hours and they have bridge games and she's having a grand time.
That's good. Isn't it amazing, right? Same thing with my parents. I grew up in a farm right outside of Toronto. And growing up, I don't think I realized how much they affected my life in a positive way. And it seems like it was the same thing with your parents, where mine were more, not more. It was, like, okay, Tom, this is your dream. If you want to pursue your dream, you go pursue the dream. We just won't get in your way. We'll just make sure you get to the rink all the time. So it is amazing how parents can really make a difference in your life. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if I'm not mistaken, you grew up in a dairy farm.
Yes, I did. Yes.
Yeah, so that's you had your chores to do, and you had to get up. And Marty McSorley grew up with they're all the guys out west. They're all hay farmers, the guys that come from the salt of the earth, and hard work is their it's that consistency too. It seems like that's with your career as well, with not just your career, but even after your playing career. For me, that's the way it was. I was never the best player on any team I was on. When I was in the agent business, I had success more just because I showed up every day, and that's what you get from your parents, right? They just show up every day and do the work. You put it in, and the harder you work, the luckier you get. They say so. If you don't put the work in, there's only so much skill can get you so far. Right, and it's that conscience that. You call it grit. That grit that you need to have in order to be successful. You need to work hard, and you need to be able to, as I said during my 5P thing, it's really a lot of line to being gritty, is that perseverance and believing in yourself when no one else will.
Yeah, totally. Isn't that true? You got to believe in yourself, especially if you're going to reach like what you went through to get to the National Hockey League. You really had to believe in yourself a lot, right?
Well, I know that there was a study done back in 2002, and you probably talked about this before, about following the 1975 birth year.
Yep. And
there are 30,000 kids in Ontario who played minor hockey. Of those 30,000, 48 ended up getting drafted in the National Hockey League. 39 signed a contract. 15 actually played in one NHL game, right? And 32 played in one NHL game. 15 played the equivalent of one season, and only 6 players played over 400 games.
Is that right?
Out of that one draft year. Wow. And so it was like 0.0003% of a chance of playing. Out of 30,000 kids, 6 guys had careers.
Wow.
And so the chances of playing in the National Hockey League is a snowball's chance in hell almost. And the fact that we were able to get there and play and stay there when everybody else is trying to knock you off your perch or, take your spot. It's very competitive. You had to play every game. You can rest on your laurels, and particularly guys in our type of role. You have to perform every day. And I broke my back. I have pins in my ankle. I had a knee replacement.
Sure.
I'm a bit beat up, but I wouldn't change it for anything.
Yeah, you do it twice, right? Do the same thing, do it harder.
Yeah. When people talk about, there's some players, I wish I knew what I was feeling today. I wouldn't, I might not have done it again. I say full bullshit. Yeah. I say I would do it over again if given the chance, knowing how I feel today and the things that I've gone through. It's an experience you can't buy.
Yeah, and we'd probably do it harder, right? Like that's one regret I look back on. Geez, I was proud of myself and everything, but geez, I'd like to do it again, do it harder. Okay, so listen, good night, Jim Kyte. People still talk about that now. They still use that as a hockey phrase.
Yeah, it's kind of died down a little bit, but certainly Paul Bissonnette is the one that kind of brought it forward.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh.
Yeah, Paul Bissonnette was being interviewed at the All-Star game, and he brought it up, and he's talking about drinking with some women and pouring vodka down their throat, something along those lines, and then it was good night, Jim Kyte. So it turned into this whole drinking thing, and people were sending me memes of getting people passed out everywhere, and they were calling it good night, Jim Kyte. So
that's funny.
It kind of took a turn that I wasn't anticipating, but all those nicknames,
Your boys must love that, right? That they've got that going on.
Oh yeah. Well, I ran into some kids and they said, "Oh my God, you're good night, Jim Kyte. You can't, you're not the good night, Jim Kyte." And they want to take photos with me, so I should have T-shirts made up.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So, any regrets at all in your life or your career?
Any regrets?
Yes.
Other than losing to Joey Kocur, and no. Well, I guess as an NHL player, I'll be very honest. I'm very envious of those who have won Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
Right. You could be like a Gilbert Perreault or a Dale Hawerchuk and so forth, be in the Hall of Fame and not win a Stanley Cup. Sure. And if I hear a player say, I had a great career, but I'm okay with not winning a Stanley Cup, either they played for the wrong reasons, or they're lying through their false teeth, right? Totally. So when you go to these alumni events and guys are wearing their Stanley Cup rings and so forth, it does irritate me, but that I didn't win one, and so that's being honest. And then other than that, no regrets at all.
Yeah, I look at you. I don't think you've got many regrets at all. It's funny you say that about the rings because Glenn Anderson is an alumni Ranger alumni. So I see him at a lot of events, and when he goes to the events, he's always got at least one of those rings on. And you're looking, oh God, that'd be nice to have one. You had retired before the Rangers ended up winning in 96. Yes,
94.
Excuse me. Yes, I had gotten traded in 86, 87 at trade deadline from Marcel Dion. And then so they won in 94. I think I was done with the game and I was living out in LA, I think it was, and I was watching this series. And there was part of the half was like really jealous that we didn't get to win. And the other part was like, man, that's got to be cool to win in Manhattan, right? Like to win in New York City.
Sure.
And trade. Yeah, it was pretty good. I heard some stories. Guys tell some stories now about what it was like. Hey, just real quick, going back, were you at your draft day when you drafted by Winnipeg? Were you at the draft?
I was, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I was. It was in Montreal Forum, and Winnipeg was the only team that actually flew me out beforehand. I don't know, maybe you did it with the Rangers or not. Craig Patrick was the general manager of the Rangers, and he made me fill out a psychological profile.
Oh, wow.
I had like 500 or 600 questions I had to answer for the Rangers.
Right.
And it was just all these different questions. Do you drink alcohol? Do you drink a little bit? They were peppered all the way through. But one of the questions I vividly remember was, have you read Alice in Wonderland? I thought, that's kind of a weird question.
Yeah.
Can you control the flow of your urine? Yeah.
Really? Yeah.
These are some of the questions.
Oh, that's funny.
So anyways, I ended up, the Jets had the pick before the Rangers.
Yeah.
So I was happy to be picked by Winnipeg.
Right.
because they had had a relationship with me before the draft.
Okay.
But I went up to Craig Patrick afterwards, and at the draft, I said, well, whatever happened with the results of that thing? And I said, oh, we get this profile on the player and everything, and we didn't really get into it, but I just thought it was unusual. But they were doing a psychological profile on all the players, and I thought that was one way of getting to know the player a little bit more, and whether, so it was good on that.
Have you ever dreamed of being a pro hockey player, skating on the same professional ice as your hockey heroes? Hockey XP gives you that chance. Join us and live your pro hockey dream for one night. A Hockey XP event gives you the full professional experience, a ticket to an NHL game, a chance to network with other hockey enthusiasts, meet new teammates, and make new connections. An event-themed jersey and a swag bag full of sponsored gifts. You'll dress in pro locker rooms and sit on pro benches. And you'll play a full game on professional ice with professional referees. Join us Tuesday, March 28th at the Wells Fargo Center in Philadelphia, or Thursday, April 6th at the UBS Arena on Long Island for a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Spots are selling out fast. Go to hockeyxp.com to register.
So what's next for you then? Geez, you're doing a lot of stuff. The Dean, anything else got planned?
Well, I just had open heart surgery not too long ago. So, so I'm recovering from that. And so things are good. I'm 58, and I don't know. I think I have another adventure left in me. I'm not exactly sure what it's going to be, but I always had plans to maybe retire when I was 60, but I've been off work for a little bit. And I don't really like not working. So I don't know what the future holds just yet, but I know whatever it is, I'm going to enjoy it.
Yeah. Listen, I got to tell you, I didn't know I knew you had a hearing problem. I didn't know how bad it was. I didn't know all the stuff you've done after the game. I didn't know what the car accidents, like you've had a really, in some ways good, in some ways bad, a really full life too, right? You really got a lot out of your life.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think everybody has a full life. It's a matter of seizing the opportunities that come along. And I had with Algonquin College, I had a window this big, and I dove straight through. I said, this opportunity might not come along in a long time. And I was given the opportunity, and anybody with a disability, I do a lot of advocacy about accessibility and inclusion. Right. And one of the things I talk about is that, which I mentioned earlier about these false filters. You see somebody in a wheelchair, or, I have an invisible disability, particularly today because it's so small. But if you know somebody has a disability, people automatically assume what they can and cannot do.
Yeah, totally.
And I was given an opportunity through Gordy Woods, because he didn't know about my hearing impairment, to actually play major junior. And I was able to, because I had that opportunity, I seized the opportunity. I was able to perform. Sure. But there's a lot of people out there that aren't given that opportunity. And it's all about, let them try, and if they fail, so be it. So be it. But people need to fail a lot. They need to build up those calluses, I call it, those emotional calluses, those physical calluses, and build up the resilience in their lives.
Yeah. I've learned so much more about the mental health and everything too, where, or how your subconscious mind works. And, like you said, like really learning that failing is actually a good thing, right? Because you learn from all your failures.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's the saying, you win some, you learn some.
Yeah. There you go. I like it. Yeah.
Yeah. Doesn't work in the NHL, but certainly in life it works.
Yeah, it definitely does. Well, listen, like I said, it's been an honor to have you on the show. I'm so impressed by you and your life that you've led. You didn't let anything stop you, no matter what it was. And it seemed like you're doing the same thing now. So very proud of you, brother.
Well, thank you very much for having me, Tom. You've been a warrior yourself, and I love what you've been doing after your career. I thought you deserved better on Survivor.
Survivor, there you go.
Yeah, but that's awesome. It's awesome that you're on and you represented as well.
I really felt like I was the first Canadian on the show, so I really felt like as that show got going, like I've got a real responsibility here. Like all the people in Canada are cheering for me. It was pretty funny. Yeah. Good.
Yeah, it was good.
All right, brother. Let's make sure we stay in touch here more, okay? So
absolutely.
All right. Good talking.
All right, man. Take care.
Wow, what an amazing story.
Wow. I played against Jim, and I knew obviously that he was or at least hearing impaired, but I didn't know how bad it was. Or, I think he's a really intelligent man.
Well, just think about all the things he had to do to be an NHL player, and then he's got to make these systems where he's looking in the glass, he's signaling the goaltender. On top of that, how many fights did you have in your career, Tom?
Oh,
do you know?
Maybe about 20 or something.
Well, actually, you had 18.
It was 18. Okay.
You know how many Jim had?
I'm going to say it's got to be 75.
64 fights.
Really?
Can you 64
they were
fights?
heavyweight fights too. He didn't fight like small guys.
No, you fought like Jan Ludwig.
I fought Larry Melnick.
Well, all right, that's a tough one.
There you go.
But he's fighting Dave Brown and the Hunters,
Yeah.
and just an amazing story, and the perseverance to keep going, like he had mentioned. He never treated a disability, just something he had to deal with.
Totally. And his mother seemed like a fantastic person too. Like she wasn't going to let him feel sorry for himself either. So, yeah.
Well, all moms, or hopefully all moms are, especially hockey moms.
He's got some great stories. The story about him when he got drafted by the junior team, that's a good one.
Unreal. Yeah. No one noticed. It's an invisible disability, like you said. But that was a great episode, and hopefully everyone enjoyed it, and we'll be back with another one.
All right, Grasshoppers, thank you for listening. We had a fantastic show. We'll see you next time.
Schwab Trading is now powered by Ameritrade to give you a new, elevated trading experience tailor-made for trader minds. Go deeper with Thinkorswim, the powerful, award-winning trading platforms now at Schwab. Unlock support from the trade desk, our team of passionate traders who live and breathe trading like you do. And sharpen your skills with an expanding library of online education crafted just for traders. All designed to help you trade brilliantly. Learn more at schwab.com/trading.